My name is Marni, and from here on out, I am going to be your very own personal wing girl. It's my job to give you the no BS, honest truth about what women want versus what they say they want. And I put up new videos every Tuesday, so keep an eye out. And if you can't keep an eye out, then please subscribe to my videos so that you don't have to keep an eye out. Ring the bell, and then you're gonna get notified as soon as my videos go live. Did you ever watch the show Friends? There was this one episode where Joey, the show's stud, talked about this one story he used to tell women about traveling through Europe that he claimed would always lead to him and that lady ending up in bed together. So I watched that episode the other night, and then literally the next day I got this email. It said, Marni, I want to learn how to tell risque stories to women and use statements and questions to build up sexual tension without being too obvious in a very overt way. Thanks, Vishan. Okay, after I read this, I was like, oh my God, I totally have to make a video on this. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you how to build sexual tension through your words and stories. So keep watching. So first off, Vishan clearly knows that it's possible to arouse women simply through your words, which I feel like I've been talking about a lot lately, and I'm really glad that it's hitting home. But what Vishan also knows is that being too overt can backfire and come off as creepy. So let's take a look at some practical ways that you can do this effectively without creeping women out. And the first thing he mentions is telling risque stories, and I'm going to assume he's talking about stories that involve sex. So while these can work great, you need to use them at the right time. And that's once a woman is already comfortable with you, and ideally there's been some flirting already. And to avoid being too overt, you simply need to be more subtle with these stories. And an easy way to do that is by talking about someone else's experience, which I talked about before. For example, maybe you have a female friend who broke up with her boyfriend because he wouldn't have a threesome with her. Telling her that story from her perspective naturally leads into discussing sexual fantasies, jealousy, relationships, etc. But it's more subtle than if you were to talk about your own experience of wanting to have a threesome. That just seems too intense. The more distance there is between you and the woman and the subject you're discussing, the safer it generally is to talk about it. Another thing you can combine this with is to get her approval to tell you the story. For example, you might say something like, so my friend Amanda told me this crazy story, and actually, it's pretty racy. I don't know if this is something you'd want to hear. Say it like that. More often than not, she'll say she does want to hear it. And at that point, she's explicitly giving you permission to tell her a risque story. And if she says she doesn't want to hear it, then you just switch gears and change the topic to something lighter, something completely different. Now, when it comes to questions and statements, the same thing applies. The more you can come at it from a different angle rather than head on, the less creepy and crude it's gonna be. So let's say you asked a woman how many one-night stands she's had. In most cases, that's not going to go down well. But maybe instead you tell her about an article you were just reading online, and it claims that the average woman has had about a dozen one-night stands by the age of 25, and you can ask her her take on the matter. Because you're not asking her directly how many one-night stands she's had, there's less pressure on her. It doesn't seem like it's about her. When you bring up the subject in a more subtle way like this, it can easily lead you both to sharing your stories about one-night stands and how many you've had. But it feels more organic and natural this way instead of you just asking the question outright, like you're probing her, like, have you had sex? Also, please note that these examples are just tips for broaching sexual topics in the beginning. If a woman responds well to these and is clearly comfortable talking about sex, you don't need to be so under the radar. You want to gauge her comfort level to see how overt or subtle you should be in the very beginning. If she tells you a story about a wild sexual experience she had, then feel free to do the same. But if you go first with that kind of story before she's shown she's comfortable with that, it could be a real turnoff for her and might freak her out. That's why it's better to start subtle and then gradually ramp it up to see if she's receptive to it. And if you don't have any stories, then you can pull from your own fantasies, or you can do this one amazing thing that I suggest all men do. Start reading literotica. It is the key to understanding sexuality from a female point of view. Women are all about the slow build, tension, and emotions, and literotica helps you learn how to express this to women in a non-creepy way. I should read a literotica for one of my videos because I want to show you the things to pay attention to. That's for another video. But I would suggest reading at least one literotica piece a night for a week to really immerse yourself in the female world of sex and sensuality. It's totally different than how men see it, but I guarantee you're gonna learn a lot for it and you're probably gonna enjoy it. Men who know these tiny little things about women are the men who will always be successful with women. Always. I want you to be one of these men, and here's how that can happen. If you're interested in having the power to quickly create these kind of emotional connections with women that are sexual in nature, then here's what I suggest. Go take a look at my top-rated flirting program, the F Formula, by clicking the link below in the description box or going to winggirlmethod.com/flirt effortlessly. It's a program that shows you how to flirt with women and tap into her deeper emotions. Good flirting bypasses the logical brain and goes straight to our emotional core. It triggers a gut reaction that fires up our emotions, unlike the typical conversations we have with most men, which fall flat. The F Formula shows you a simple framework that'll make flirting feel like second nature, including some word-for-word examples to help you get the hang of it, which is kind of cool. This is the fastest way I know to create the gut-level attraction and sexual tension that we find irresistible. To learn more on how to quickly and easily ignite feelings of emotional connection in any woman you speak to through flirting, simply click the link below for all the details or go to winggirlmethod.com/flirt effortlessly. I will see you next week.